On this episode, we're going to be discussing the LA debut of Sparklmami at the Morrocan Lounge in Los Angeles, California. So if you're keen to hear that, please stick around. This is All Gas, No Trash. My name's Adam, and welcome back to the program, and welcome to a brand new episode. So just to give a quick update, Josh was actually supposed to be on these episodes, the one about Sparklmami and a couple of reviews that we're supposed to be doing, but we had a little bit of a situation with the power going out, so I just wanted to record these episodes to have something to release on Monday, so I just simply couldn't wait. So that's why there's no intro, and we're just getting to the meat and potatoes right away. So again, this is a recap of Sparklmami's LA debut at the Morrocan Lounge for a show that Jazz is Dead, the promotion, had put together. So it started off with me driving to Los Angeles, arriving sometime an hour and a half before the show, and me thinking, oh, I'm pretty slick, I left at an appropriate time. I'm probably going to be the first person, and it turns out that actually wasn't the case. There was two additional people, a woman and a younger gentleman that was probably around 20 years old. And I was actually going to ask them, like, damn, you guys are already here to just be in line for this show? And, we all kind of just started talking amongst ourselves about music and bands that we really enjoy, and overall just being excited to see Sparklmami. And a fourth person comes along. It was this woman who had, I guess, like a Roger Waters shirt, kind of like a baseball tee, and she had some denim jeans and some very, very beautiful hair. And so amongst the four of us, we just kind of got into, I guess, deep conversations about music. And for the woman that had the Roger Waters attire, or the shirt rather, it turns out that she's somebody that is an assistant at Dublab, the online radio station. Also DJs at a place called the Checkered Hall or something like that. I'm not sure exactly where she said this place was. It's somewhere in Highland Park, around the lodge room or inside the lodge room. So she is somebody that is really enthusiastic about music, DJs on her own time or free time, I guess. And I believe her name was Jess. And there was this guy whose name was Zane, who was probably around 20 years old, who was carrying a Sparklmami vinyl that he was, I'm guessing, getting signed by the end of the evening. And there was this other woman whose name escapes me, who turned out to be a PhD student from Southgate. So it just kind of led to some really interesting conversations. And I ended up talking with the woman named Jess, who was the DJ, because I think we're kind of running on the same wavelength about really being passionate about music, for her to, I guess, go vinyl digging and just trying to discover new music, finding new things to play on her DJ sets. And we got to talking about some finer details, I guess. She was sharing some of the jazz records that she has that largely were going over my head, because jazz is kind of a genre that I only know on a superficial level. So she was showing me some of these niche records that she had or purchased, and she was asking me like what music I was interested in as of late. And there was a band that I had been talking about briefly in our conversation, and I just told her, John's got to be the band you have to see if you're a fan of Salt or even Jungle. Like, this is a band you have to see. They're only just starting. They only have so many singles, and I ended up playing the music video for their debut single, and she just loved it. So she ended up buying a ticket for that show on August 7th at the Morrocan Lounge. I know I sound like I'm pitching, but that's just me sharing the details of the convo. So we eventually are just hanging around for a bit, and the manager actually comes out from Sparklmami, or the manager of Sparklmami comes out, and I don't know, this dude seemed like really laid back, a little bit timid, because He's like, wait, he's like, holy shit, you guys are here early to see Sparklmami? And I don't know, I just kind of got taken back by that. And then these guys started coming out with cameras, like these 16 old school millimeter cameras that they were recording the audience and stuff. I'm not sure if that was kind of a paid team that Sparklmami had, or if that was associated with Jazz is Dead. But man, the vibes just from the line were so good. Like, everybody was just really enthusiastic about what was happening, for the manager to come out and just be happy that people showed up, and for us to be thrilled that Sparklmami is performing in Los Angeles. It was just like good vibes from the start. And we end up going inside the core of us, the group of four that I was talking to, and we actually stuck together. And I don't know, it was just a really cool experience to have something like that. And, we were just kind of learning about each other's lives, what we do, and, different concerts we had been to, and just all kinds of crap. And, it's been a while since I've been around a crowd like that. And I'm not really sure if that's the byproduct of Sparklmami, the music, perhaps the genre, or even the Jazz is Dead space, the promotion itself, for people to gather that they're just, that cool and open-minded. But I just generally had a good time, and it seemed like everybody else did too. I mean, the enthusiasm in the crowd was just overwhelming, from just the mention of Sparklmami's name from the person that opened the set, who was a friend of Sparklmami, a keyboard player or a piano player, that just kind of opened up the set, gave a little bit of hype to her. And just from the words of mentioning Sparklmami, people were just going off the chain. So, I mean, Sparklmami comes out, people are losing their minds. And man, what a talented group she has. I mean, she had a saxophone player that also had like this electronic bassoon or flute thing. I don't know what the fuck it was, but he could emit different sounds from it. There was a keyboard player, drums, bass, a conga player, which was fucking rad as shit. Like, for somebody like her to have a really dynamic and beautiful voice, her crew was just as sick. And I mean, she opened with a slowed down version of No Te Vayas, and then it turned into some newer tracks that I haven't personally heard, probably some unreleased stuff. And man, like I said, these people that were in the audience, it wasn't just fans of the music. We're talking musicians from Los Angeles proper that were coming out of their way to see Her Holiness, Sparklmami. And just to quickly mention, before I even forget, there was somebody that I spoke to afterwards whom I hadn't seen in a hot minute. I mean, it's probably been about 6 years, and we did make an episode about him previously. His name's Don Brown, and I ran into him and his girlfriend, who is his manager. And man, it was just so cool to see somebody like that at this show, because to have, even musicians revere Sparklmami as this, really talented artist. Like, this shit's good when you have other musicians coming out and supporting with their own money and stuff. So I spoke to Don Brown briefly and just told him, like, dude, you're a really sick drummer. I met you like 6 years back or 7 years back when you were playing drums for different artists, August Eve, Introverted Funk, Serpent with Feet, Genevieve. Just a really talented dude, has his own collective called the Don Brown Collective, and he has played at Blue Note, Dodger Stadium. This dude's really talented, so I just kind of let him know. I'm like, hey, I made an episode about you. I really enjoy you as a musician. I think you're fucking dope. And he's like, what the fuck? Like, just kind of, flabbergasted. Somebody is, I guess, like, recognizing him out of the crowd. But yeah, I mean, it was just that type of environment that everybody was so welcoming and stuff. So, yeah, it was generally cool. Getting back to the show itself, I had this theory that I wish I made an episode about this before I had gone to the show, because I had this personal theory about Sparklmami, about the debut album and its brevity, probably maxing out at I think 23 minutes or 29 minutes. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I'm like, damn, this is rather short. And not to say that the brevity impacted my score of the album, not at all. I think I thought the album was a 10 out of 10, to be perfectly honest. But I thought if there was a reason that the album felt a little short, is perhaps because Sparklmami was actually holding off on turning this into something of a jam session, having extended solos, people doing their own thing and just, improvising. And that ended up actually coming true, because as the set unfolded and we heard all these different songs from Sparklmami, they were different renditions of songs that are featured on the album. I mean, the Quisiera song was actually radically different from the Bolero track that you would hear from the single or even the album. So it was different in that sense. Sometimes they would just kind of get in a rhythm and just start going off on tangents. Well, not tangents exactly, but just, letting the music decide where it should go. And I think that's kind of in the nature of jazz to do that. So that's why I felt like Sparklmami intentionally left that stuff off the record to have extended solos or things like that, to really be surprised and taken back by those moments in a live performance. And I thought that was really cool. And I even told that to Don Brown, that was my theory. And, he kind of felt the same way. But, just throughout the set, man, you really got to understand how talented each individual on their own, each musician was, especially the guy on the congas. Like, man, he was really getting into the music. And, there's some instances that I have from recording the set where I just concentrate on him and the drummer, because they're just really getting in a groove, getting in the pocket. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm going to end up doing is posting the entire set on YouTube for you to check out, so you can just see for yourself how awesome this set was. I mean, Sparklmami kind of carried herself as this really humble person, perhaps a little bit timid. And she is something of an oddball in a good way. I mean, she would just make random noises and really just unapologetically herself. And I love that about her. I mean, she had a song that she was mentioning that was about post-nut clarity that I thought was really fucking funny, but you have to check that out for yourself. I don't want to share too much, but overall, I mean, for me to experience this show and talk to just random people and connect with them in different ways was just really cool. So what ended up happening afterwards, I could share this bit of information. What ended up happening afterwards is I spoke to Don Brown, which you already heard, but Sparklmami was in the bar area so she could sign people's stuff and take photos. So I was still with that group, and we were just waiting in line trying to get her stuff signed and just talk to her. And I took maybe about 1 or 2 minutes just to speak with her really quickly, just to say that I thought her album was spectacular, that Quisiera meant a lot to me because I can definitely relate to many of the lyrics personally, for somebody like myself that's a first-generation American. I mean, for my own college experience, which is something that she talks about in the Vocalo radio interview, is that she moved to Chicago for school and she's working and doing her degree or whatever, and she can't really relate that to her mother because, perhaps she doesn't really have any concept of what she's doing, being a social media content strategist, and trying to explain that for somebody that really maybe doesn't have a great grasp of social media because they're from a different time, I guess. I can relate to that myself, having gotten my computer science degree and trying to explain what I do to my parents. I mean, they really didn't have any concept of the internet or even computers themselves because they're 40 years older than me. So I was just kind of explaining what that album meant to me personally, being a Mexican American myself. And I told her, I'm like, hey, I made an album review about your debut album and I gave it a 10 out of 10. I thought it was, one of the best things that I heard in 2026. And she's like, oh, I listened to the whole thing because I showed her the thumbnail and she's like, oh yeah, I saw that. And I listened to the whole thing. And I'm like, did I do you justice? And she's like, yes. So I went away feeling pretty content about just the whole experience in its entirety, and that specific moment was just kind of a little bit of a cherry on top. And I don't remember what else I said. Oh, I told her that there's definitely some music out there that I think she would be keen to. I didn't get to really elaborate on that because I didn't want to take too much of people's time. So what I just told her was like, hey, I think there's some artists that you should be looking out for if you ever make your way to Europe. I think there's some bands that you should work with. I don't know how that works as far as your booking agency goes, if you can have some control about the bands that you work with, but there's some bands I think you should play with, definitely. So I was telling her about Curio Curio that's on Mr. Bongo Records that I think she would enjoy because, they're heavily rooted in Brazilian music, which Sparklmami is too, and Toast Club, for them to be in the space of like jazz fusion, jazz rock type of stuff. It's a different flavor of jazz that I think would go really well with Sparklmami if she ever went overseas. So that more or less ended up capping the night. She just told me to reach out to her and share this stuff with her. So I just had a really awesome experience checking her out. The crowd was awesome. The music was awesome. The keyboard player was hanging outside the Morrocan Lounge and just high-fiving people, and everybody was just complimenting the last moment within the set. I don't want to say specifically what it was, but all I could say was it was improvised as those were his own words. It was just kind of spontaneous that happened. So I hope you end up checking out the entire set from the Morrocan Lounge because it really is like something to behold. So just stick around for that. It's going to be released, I believe, the same day as this episode. And I'm thinking probably Tuesday is when it's going to drop, which is sometime around Monday midnight Eastern Standard Time. So it'll be Monday 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So be on the lookout for that. And that's just more or less the recap of my experience of seeing Sparklmami. Hopefully you guys have the opportunity to see her perform in the future. I'm not sure if she actually has a tour going, but if you end up having the opportunity to see her perform, definitely buy tickets. Do it. You won't regret it. And that's all I have to say about that. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you all next time.